The original Audi e-tron was a bit of a pioneer in Australia because it debuted the idea of a premium all-electric SUV. But now, 2 years on, it's time for a facelift. Let's check out the Q8 e-tron. So yes, Audi has changed the name, and that's because the Q8 e-tron sort of sits above the Q5 but below the Q7. This is a 4.9 metre long all-electric SUV. So what have they done? Well, I think you'll probably be able to tell there's a dramatic redesign of both the front and, in a minute you'll see, the rear end of the car. And these changes are not only to make it more striking, but they're also to make it a lot more efficient. Because the number one problem with the current e-tron, well, according to its customers, was it just simply didn't offer enough range. So that's why Audi has boosted the range of all the models. So how has it done that? Well, you can just look at this front end. It has the original air curtain, but they have been widened, and it has a redesigned lower rear valance. And this is quite important because they found out that the old one used to leak air up into the bonnet, which is not very good for drag. So while we're at the front of the car, it's worth pointing out this is Audi's new 2D logo. And this grille is also 3D and has an LED light bar that sort of shines across, that sort of neatens it up a little bit. Like before, it's got the active grille that opens the shutters for cooling of both the batteries and electric motors. Now, let's come to the back of the car. This way, there's some new rims. Do we care about that? Not really. At the back of the car, there is a new diffuser. It doesn't actually look like it does anything, but Audi has significantly tweaked the aero in this car to lower drag coefficient by about 0.1, whatever that means. So the Q8 e-tron, like many other all-electric vehicles, are truly numbers cars, and there's a lot of them. Let me explain. So Audi is going to offer the Q8 e-tron in the 50, the 55 and the SQ8. Now, you might need a pen and paper for this. The 50 version gets the old car's big battery, so that's a 95 kilowatt hour battery. Now, thanks to its new electric motors, it now produces 250 kilowatts and 664 newton meters of torque. Now that is an increase of 20 kilowatts and 124 newton meters of torque. Now, see what I mean? There's a lot of numbers to consider here. That now enables the big all-electric SUV to hit 100 kilometers per hour in a very respectable 6 seconds. If that is not enough power, you'll probably want the 55. Now the 55 carries over the 50's torque peak, which is 664 newton meters, but now produces 300 kilowatts, which is 50 kilowatts more. See what I mean? It also comes with a bigger 114 kilowatt hour battery, so that means the range goes up to 600 kilometers, which is very impressive. That's a huge, I think that's around 44% increase from my numbers. Oh, the base car, the base 50, now has a range of 513 kilometers. If you're still keeping track of this, I really, really respect you, because it's so confusing for me and I've studied the numbers. Anyway, so 55, that does 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 5.6 seconds. Now, the big daddy, the SQ8. There will not be an RS-Q8 e-tron, they tell me. So the SQ8 now produces 370 kilowatts, and I'm going to have to cheat here because it's just below 973 newton meters of torque, and that enables it to hit 100 kilometers per hour in just 4.5 seconds and top out at 210 kilometers per hour. Now that, I have to cheat here, that has a range of 505 kilometers, which is still really quite decent considering firstly the size of this car. As well as introducing more efficient software to govern the management of the battery, Audi has also increased charging speed. So the 95 kilowatt hour battery now can be charged up to 150 kilowatts, which is up from 120, and the new 114 kilowatt hour battery, well, that can be topped up to 170 kilowatts. So that means a 10 to 80% top up now takes 26 minutes, which is actually the same as the last car. But remember, you're putting more energy in and you're getting more range out. So that's a good thing, until you remember the Koreans have charging up to 350 kilowatts. So yeah, the Volkswagen Group still has some way to go to catch up with, well, the very leaders in all electric car technology. So I think that's enough of the numbers. What I can tell you is, on our drive, we've driven the SQ8, which is ballistically fast. It has 3 electric motors to produce its 370 kilowatts. And my God, does it fly down the road. But you know what? I'm in the 55 version now, so that winds power down to 300 kilowatts. And this offers plentiful punch on the road like this. It's also a fractionally bit quieter because both cars have a really irritating whine that comes from the front motor at around speed of 90 kilometers per hour, and I'm not sure what it's caused, but I think it's the front motor. But God, does it make a racket. So what else has Audi done? Well, it's also said it's improved handling significantly. And what engineers have basically done is they've taken the old car and they've tried to sort of increase sort of precision when you turn in. So now they say it's just a lot more precise. And one of the big changes is it's junked the old rack for a new one that's around 10% faster. The steering weight is also a lot lighter, and it sort of adds to the feel. Has it transformed the e-tron? Well, it still feels a very heavy SUV, which of course it is. But there's been other changes too. So the bushings on the version we're driving now are around 50% stiffer, and they've also changed the damping on the rear axle, particularly because customers sort of complained of like a floaty feeling, and yeah, it's now a lot more, well, controlled. So the result is, on a road like this, it does feel more precise, but it's not really something that will make you trade out of your RS Q8 or your X5 BMW. But I think for people who want one of these, well, they buy them for the same reasons they've always bought them. These things are utterly refined, quiet, super quick, and will give you that smug feeling only an all-electric vehicle can, even in one that's this big. As for ride quality, I'm afraid we're going to have to probably wait until the Q8 e-tron arrives when we get home, because the roads we're driving on now are mostly, well, pretty damn smooth. So yeah, we'll have to reserve judgment for that, but we can say that over some of the big bumps, yeah, it's perfectly well cushioned, and yeah, I think there's nothing to put you off. So overall, Audi has done just enough with its incremental changes to keep the Q8 e-tron relevant against new rivals like things like the BMW iX.